Charlie is a poor student studying at an elite private school. Although he received a national scholarship, it is still not enough to cover his expenses. So he looks for part-time jobs on weekends. That day, he came to the employer's house for an interview. Because the family would be away for the weekend, they needed someone to take care of her uncle, a blind, retired military officer. She reminded Charlie not to call him sir and not to help him unless he asked. Although he has a bad temper, he is kind at heart.
Sir?
Don't call me sir. We got a moron here, is that it?
But Charlie felt like he had been tricked. Frank speaks very directly, sometimes even harshly. With sharp words, he immediately points out Charlie's nervousness and his ordinary family background. Soon, Charlie is sent away. He wants to refuse the job, but the woman begs him to accept it. After struggling inside, Charlie agrees. After all, he really needs the money. That evening, on the way back to the dorm with George, Charlie sees some classmates planning a prank. George guesses what they are going to do. At that moment, a teacher happens to appear. George quickly steps in to block her and cleverly draws her attention away, but the noise is too loud. She asks who is over there. George distracts her again, and she doesn't continue questioning. The next day, the headmaster appears under a streetlight, attracted by the campus broadcast. When he looks up, he discovers the students' prank. They are mocking the Jaguar he got by flattering his superiors. He angrily tries to pop the balloon, but instead falls straight into their trap. It's clear that the students don't like him. Because the teacher knew there were witnesses that night, the headmaster threatens them. If they protect the people who planned the prank, they will be expelled. George says it was too dark to see who did it. Since George's father is a school shareholder, the headmaster can only let him go. But Charlie has no background, so he becomes the breakthrough point. The headmaster promises him benefits if he names the planners. Charlie insists on saying nothing. The headmaster tells him to think about it over the weekend. On Monday, the issue will be announced at a school-wide meeting. Those words put Charlie in a dilemma. George tries to comfort him. Over the weekend, a rich classmate invites Charlie to go skiing for Thanksgiving, but he can't afford it, so he goes to take care of Frank. When he arrives, he finds Frank packing his luggage. Frank is going to New York. Charlie tries to help, but is immediately scolded. Soon, they board a first-class flight. Although Frank can't see...
Thank you, Daphne.
Certainly, sir.
How did you know her name?
Well, she's wearing Floris. Now, that's an English cologne. But her voice is California Chickie. Now, California Chickie, bucking for English lady. Call her Daphne.
His sense of smell and hearing are extremely sharp. This surprises Charlie. They arrive at the luxurious Waldorf Hotel. Because of school matters, Charlie wants to leave. Frank tells him to have dinner first.
You'll dine with me, and then my driver will transport you to the airport for the Boston shuttle departing at 2200 hours.
In the car, Frank senses that Charlie is in a low mood. He questions him directly.
What's the matter with you?
Charlie finally tells him about the prank on the headmaster. Frank analyzes the situation for himself. But in the end, Charlie still chooses to stick to his principles. They arrive at the Oak Room restaurant. When Charlie opens the menu and sees the prices, he is shocked.
$24 hamburger?
He looks at the colonel in disbelief.
Are you like a rich miser or something?
Frank says he's just an ordinary blind man.
I saved up my disability checks.
He also reminds Charlie.
You're leaving on that last shuttle out of LaGuardia.
The colonel calms him down and says,
You got 15 minutes, son. I don't think you're going to make it.
This trip has a plan. Plan to say goodbye to the world. Charlie is completely stunned. With no other choice, Charlie follows him back to the hotel. The colonel arranges for Charlie to sleep on the sofa and tells him to get up early the next morning. Charlie salutes him impatiently, but the casual gesture is immediately noticed. The next morning, Charlie quickly calls George. George sounds impatient and tells Charlie that he will handle everything, so there's no need to worry. The colonel hears the conversation and gives Charlie some advice.
Charlie, you had a little life, so you decided to go to the Baird School to put yourself in the market for a big one. Now, in order to stay in the running, you're going to have to tell these people what they want to know. There are two kinds of people in this world. Those who stand up and face the music, and those who run for cover.
Charlie falls into deep thought. Later, they go to the colonel's brother's house. The door is opened by his nephew, who clearly doesn't welcome them. The colonel walks straight into the house. When his brother sees him, he doesn't look happy either. The colonel greets everyone.
Why don't you take him to your families for dinner?
I heard that.
At dinner, everyone sits together. The colonel starts talking about the past, but everyone looks impatient. His nephew exposes his history and begins to mock him.
Yeah, Frank was earmarked for general.
Earmarked. Good word.
You want to know what happened then?
Will you shut your mouth?
He blew himself up.
Stop it, Randy.
One grenade got away from him, and all Frank lost was his eyesight.
The colonel doesn't care about what he says. The nephew keeps mocking him, but when he starts mocking Charlie, the colonel explodes.
You get the point, Jackie?
He grabs his nephew by the throat, releasing all the anger inside him. Charlie desperately tries to stop him, and only then does he let go. The family gathering ends early. Before leaving, he speaks honestly with his brother.
I'm no fucking good. And I never have been.
He would rather leave as a bad man than let his family suffer because of his departure. The next day, Charlie wants to say goodbye to him, but finds him assembling a gun. Remembering what the colonel said at the restaurant, Charlie becomes worried and immediately tries to call his niece, but the colonel snatches away the phone. Seeing how extreme he has become, Charlie decides to leave. The colonel shouts after him, asking him to stay one more day.
All I want from you is another day.
Charlie agrees, but only if the gun is handed over.
Oh, Charlie. I'm a lieutenant colonel, United States Army. I'm not giving my fucking gun to anyone.
In the end, the colonel gives him the bullets. Then the colonel takes him to a hotel bar. As soon as they sit down, the colonel is captivated by a woman's scent. He takes Charlie over to greet her and accurately describes her perfume.
Ogilvy Sister Soul.
He then invites her to
It's
dance the
amazing.
tango.
Well, I'm in the amazing business.
The woman worries about making mistakes, but the colonel reassures her.
No mistakes in the tango, Donna. Not like life. If you make a mistake, get all tangled up. You just tango on.
This becomes the classic tango scene. Charlie watches in amazement and gains a new understanding of the colonel. Though short-tempered, he also has a gentle and careful side. Later, they go to experience a Ferrari. At first, the salesman refuses to let them test drive it, so the colonel offers $2,000, and the salesman agrees. They drive to an empty street. The colonel begins to feel the steering wheel. He drives carefully at first, then slowly accelerates. Charlie's heart starts racing. They go faster and faster. The roar of the Ferrari fills the street. He even tries to turn. At this moment, the colonel is completely reckless. Charlie can only pray for safety. After the wild ride, the colonel returns to calm, but he looks disappointed. Suddenly, he loses all passion. Charlie doesn't realize it yet. The colonel has already experienced luxury hotels, fine food, beautiful women, and fast cars. He has also said goodbye to his family. He suddenly asks Charlie to go buy medicine for him and cigars from another block. When Charlie reaches the hotel lobby, he feels something is wrong. He immediately runs back to the room. He sees the colonel in his military uniform assembling a gun. Charlie tries to talk him out of it, but the colonel believes his life should end now. He also believes Charlie is doomed.
Your friend George gonna sing like a canary, and so are you. And once you've sung, Charlie, my boy, you're gonna take your place on that long, gray line of American manhood.
I'd like to disagree with you, Colonel.
I'm gonna kill you, Charlie. Because I can't bear the thought of you selling out!
Suddenly, the colonel raises the gun. Charlie rushes forward and is forced into a corner. The colonel roars at him.
I'm in the dark here!
Charlie finally loses patience and tells him to shoot.
So let's get on. Let's fucking do it. Let's fucking pull the trigger, you miserable blind motherfucker.
The colonel can't do it. He realizes that Charlie is kind, honest, and brave. Charlie responds calmly.
If you're tangled up, just tango on.
You're asking me to dance, Charlie.
The colonel slowly calms down. They sit quietly on the sofa together. Suddenly, the phone rings. They are told they missed their flight, so they drive through the night to return. They rush back for Monday's hearing. On the way, the colonel learns that Charlie must face the meeting alone. His stepfather doesn't really care about him. They finally arrive at the school before the hearing. Charlie says goodbye to the colonel. The colonel pays him $300. After one weekend together, they have become close. The colonel gently touches Charlie's face, wanting to remember this boy. As the hearing is about to begin, the room is already full. The 3 students who planned the prank are also present. George has the support of his father. Charlie stands alone on the stage. The promise made back then is now upheld by only one person. When the headmaster enters, the atmosphere becomes serious. At this moment, the colonel is led into the room by his driver. Charlie is surprised. In the end, the colonel sits beside him on the stage. The headmaster questions George.
You were in a position last Tuesday night to see who committed this act of vandalism. Who was it?
I didn't have my contacts in.
The headmaster presses him again, and his father signals him as well. George hesitates, then vaguely suggests who it might have been. The headmaster then turns to Charlie. Charlie admits that he did see what happened, but says he cannot reveal any names. He refuses to betray others, to protect himself. Hearing this, the headmaster becomes furious and immediately delivers his judgment. George is rewarded. Charlie's behavior, he claims, does not align with the school's values, and Charlie is expelled on the spot. Then comes the colonel's iconic speech.
Mr. Sims, you are a cover-up artist and you are a liar.
But not a snitch. When the shit hits the fan, some guys run and some guys stay. Here's Charlie facing the fire, and there's George hiding in Big Daddy's pocket. And what are you doing? You're gonna reward George and destroy Charlie. You're building a rat ship here. Because I say you are killing the very spirit this institution proclaims it instills.
Sir, you're out of order.
Out of order? I show you out of order. If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place. And I have seen boys like these, younger than these, their arms torn out, their legs ripped off. But there is nothing like the sight of an amputated spirit. There is no prosthetic for that. Now, I have come to the crossroads in my life. I always knew what the right path was, but I never took it. You know why? It was too damn hard. Now, here's Charlie. He's come to the crossroads. He has chosen a path. It's the right path. It's a path made of principle.
The room erupts in applause. The committee begins to deliberate. The headmaster demands a private discussion, but the request is denied. The decision is announced on the spot. This is a fair judgment.
Mr. Charles Sims is excused from any further response to this incident.
Charlie supports the colonel as they walk out of the room to thunderous applause. At this moment, they look like father and son, and also like fellow soldiers. Both have faced life and death struggles. Now their souls are redeemed. Whether it is Frank or Charlie, everyone reaches a crossroads in life. Each direction leads to a different outcome. Life is like dancing the tango. If you miss a step, it's okay. Just keep dancing the next beat. To those going through difficult times, keep going and continue shaping the life that awaits tomorrow.